more. Shedeur Sanders had to wait longer than expected to find out where his NFL story begins.
Teams just really didn't view him as an elite quarterback prospect. He didn't really do anything to separate himself from the rest of the pack.
For him to wind up going deep into the third day was stunning.
The overwhelming message I saw when Shedeur slid to the 5th round, the NFL was basically saying, you're not that guy.
I think the media is complicit in this as well. We also thought that Shedeur Sanders was a first-round prospect, and I think this is a bigger picture story of where did it all go wrong?
You are not going to ever tell me that Shedeur Sanders was worthy of based strictly off of what he did on the football field.
143 picks came and went before you heard his name. Don't talk to me about football. I don't want to hear a damn thing about football. This ain't about football. This is about something else.
The draft has spoken. Whether we like it or not, the draft spoke. And somewhere along the line, people were not comfortable with the risk that would be associated with taking him in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round.
We're joined now by our senior NFL insider, Adam Schefter. I mean, listen, Shedeur was drafted 2 days ago, and still all anybody wants to know, Shefty, is why. What are you hearing about why he slid to the 5th round?
I think it's a confluence of factors, Elle, all working together all at one time. You're talking about a player who is a good prospect, not an elite prospect in the eyes of National Football League front office executives. You're talking about not a ton of teams needing quarterbacks, and the teams that needing quarterbacks preferring other quarterbacks like Jackson Dart and Tyler Shuck and even Dylan Gabriel. So you had teams that filled their quarterback need. You had other teams that weren't looking for a quarterback, and you had a player, by all accounts, talking to front offices that basically said that it was not a great interview process for Shedeur Sanders. It all conspired together to create a situation where we saw him fall to pick number 144. But the truth of the matter is, Elle, it really doesn't matter. Because now Shedeur Sanders gets his chance. Now he gets to go to the Cleveland Browns. Now he gets to show every NFL team, including the Browns, what they missed out on early in the draft. And if he performs in the legendary way, in the word that he likes to use, then all of this will be made to look front offices and coaching staffs look foolish. He gets his say now. Let's see what he can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you don't want to go in the 5th round, but right now the Browns quarterback room is the island of misfit toys. There's very much a path for him to start. We're going to talk with Jason McCourty coming up about that. A team that a lot of people thought might make a go at Shedeur Sanders is, of course, the Steelers. They instead, in the 6th round, picked Ohio State quarterback Will Howard. What does that mean about Aaron Rodgers' future there in Pittsburgh?
I think they believe and are quietly confident that Aaron Rodgers eventually will come around and sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, it's late April. He hasn't done that yet, but if you listen to the Steelers owner, Art Rooney, this weekend, he sounded a tone of optimism and confidence that eventually Aaron Rodgers will wind up in the Steel City with the Steelers. That is the expectation. Aaron Rodgers himself has not said what he's ready to or not to do just yet, but the Steelers are operating like they are confident that Aaron Rodgers will be in the fold. They talked about adding a couple more quarterbacks to go along with Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. One came this weekend, Will Howard. Now they wait for the other in Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, there's also another veteran quarterback whose future is really up in the air, and I'm talking about Falcons backup Kirk Cousins. What's the latest that you're hearing about him?
Well, to me, this would be, in the eyes of people across the league, the backup plan in Pittsburgh if Aaron Rodgers decided not to come back to the Steelers. Because then Kirk Cousins would be a veteran quarterback that would have some appeal and draw some interest from some teams. Right now, we saw all these teams fill their quarterback needs. We saw the Cleveland Browns, who really couldn't have afforded to trade for Kirk Cousins anyway, draft 2 quarterbacks, Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel. We saw the Minnesota Vikings trade with Seattle for quarterback Sam Howell. Really, the only team right now that has a pressing quarterback need is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers are waiting for Aaron Rodgers. But if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come through and decides he doesn't want to play, then I would think Kirk Cousins would figure to be on the Steelers' list of potential replacements. And if Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh, what that would mean to Kirk Cousins would be he might have to wait for another team to suffer some type of setback at the quarterback position, an injury, just to see what happens. Because right now, there's a real possibility he could be going to camp with the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, he tied for his most in a career in interceptions with 16 last season. Had a really good start to the season, but certainly went downhill from there. Adam Schefter always bringing it to us here on SportsCenter. Thanks, friend. Very, very crowded quarterback room. The team entered the draft with Deshaun Watson, Kenny Pickett, and Joe Flacco on the roster. Then, of course, they added not only Shedeur Sanders, but Oregon's Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. And, of course, passing on Shedeur Sanders until the 5th round. Let's bring a Super Bowl champ into the conversation, Jason McCourty. 5 guys, great option for dinner. In the quarterback room, I don't know. I mean, what do you make of the situation that Shedeur Sanders has found himself in Cleveland?
You said 5 guys. I didn't know where we were going with that.
What are we doing?
I look at this, and for Shedeur Sanders, obviously wasn't hoping to go in the 5th round, but may end up into a really good situation. Everyone's trying to explain this fall. There is no answer for all 32 teams, including the Cleveland Browns, of why exactly he fell. From things he didn't do in the draft process to a lot of different variables and excuses that people are giving. Nonetheless, he finds himself on a team that doesn't have a surefire starting quarterback. He walks into that room and he has an opportunity to compete. You also have to remember where he was drafted. You have to assume Dylan Gabriel will start ahead of him. And then there are 2 other veterans, and Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett. But I'm sure he'll have a huge chip on his shoulder, and he'll walk in there ready to prove everybody wrong.
I felt the same way. Like, yes, he would have liked to have gone sooner. It cost him millions of dollars. Yeah. But, I mean, if Joe Flacco is your king, you got a real opportunity to be the starter. By the way, Browns win total set at 4.5. Which is the lowest in the league, so bar real low. Let's stay in the AFC, shall we? Bills GM Brandon Beane went defense in the draft to help Josh Allen and co. Like his first 5 picks, in fact. Of course, the Jeremy and Joe show on Buffalo station WGR 550 criticized him for not shoring up the receiving core, and Beane was not buying it.
A year ago, I get you guys asking why we didn't have receivers, but I don't understand it now. You just saw us lead the league in points. When you add all the postseason, no one scored more points than the Buffalo Bills, including the Super Bowl champions. Our job is to score points and win games. Where do we need to get better? Defense. We did that. You can't have everything. You can't have Pro Bowl wide receivers and have a Pro Bowl offensive line and an all-pro quarterback and 3 great running backs. Like, you gotta pick. Sure, I'd love to play fantasy football, but there's one football, Jeremy. There's one ball. You can't give it to but so many people. So that's where I'm like, I don't understand this narrative. Our job is to score points. It doesn't matter what receivers, what quarterback, what. If you score points at the level we scored, that is winning football.
I suppose it's appropriate that he went all defensive when talking about his defense. But in all fairness, the Bills receiving corps ranked 22nd in yards per game last year. What do you make of all of this?
He could have added speed maybe at their wide receiver position, but I'm all with Brandon Beane. It doesn't take much to get me to talk about defensive guys when it comes to football. For Brandon Beane and for the Buffalo Bills, under Sean McDermott, whenever they've played the Kansas City Chiefs in the playoffs, they're giving up over 400 yards and over 30 points a game. And that has been the team in their way of being able to reach the Super Bowl. So going with a cornerback in the 1st round, a guy that played a lot of zone but has the speed to play man-to-man, makes a ton of sense. Brandon Beane used a lot more colorful language in that soundbite if you listen to the whole thing. I think he's fired up and he's pissed off of continue to hear people criticize every single pick he makes. They have an eraser at the quarterback position in Josh Allen, a guy that erases the mistakes or the downfalls of other people on the offensive side of the ball. They have to be better on defense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, honestly, their win total set at 11.5. That's tied with the Ravens, Chiefs, and Eagles for highest in the NFL. I wish that someone had ever said defense wins championships.
I mean, I did win one, only giving up 3 points.
There he goes. Our Super Bowl champs coming there. Can you just put into perspective, Will Bond, what this means for the Washington franchise that they're finally coming back home?
They're throwing a parade over just having had this knowledge and announcement over the last few days. It's been coming. Everybody knew this was going to happen. Josh Harris, leading that new ownership group that, of course, includes Magic Johnson. They've just made every move has been the right move since buying the team, whether it's hiring the right executives who make the right draft picks, star rookie quarterback, all of it. And so getting a stadium is making that community whole. Washington is suffering. It couldn't get a World Cup game because the place that used to be known as FedEx Field is a complete dump and has been that for at least 10 years, if not more. RFK, the site you mentioned, which is revered in Washington, D.C., in the District of Columbia. Revered. The place used to shake. 54,000 people, and, folks over a certain age talk, they get teary-eyed when they talk about going back to games there. Well, it's going to happen. I know there are votes to be had, and anytime you're dealing with the federal government and local government, you're dealing with a lot of people with a lot to say. That stadium's going to be built. And again, the ownership group has made one great step after another to get this done. It won't be done quickly. You're talking about probably 4 more years before you're going to see a game there. But there's Oh Happy Day going on in the District of Columbia, the DMV, as we call it, starting in my house with a person I'm married to who was a season ticket holder and talks about going there as a little kid with her father.
Yeah.
That's what it represents to the district and the region, and people can't wait to get it up there.
Honestly, you nailed it. I mean, you talk about the turnaround that this franchise has seen from every single move they made being maligned to making seemingly just some of the best decisions and then coming off their best season since winning the Super Bowl in 1991. We love it when DC is happy, and we love when you join the show, Michael Wilbon. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the NFL. And our draft analyst, Mel Kiper Jr., gave out some grades, right? Commanders, we just mentioned, received a B+. He thinks Washington, as promised, our champ is back, J-Mac. Give me the team you think had the best draft over this past weekend and why.
Now, listen, I'm not a homer, but I'm going with the New England Patriots on this one. I think they did a terrific job of building around their young quarterback in Drake May. You go with Will Campbell to start the draft off, the best lineman in the draft, a guy that loves seeing Bass Pro Shop in the backyard of his new stadium. Then Travion Henderson, a big play threat. He adds so much speed to this offense that they need bounce, something he did a ton this past year in college.
I feel like the Patriots, it's like if your wife sends you to the grocery store, it's very different if the cupboard's bare. You don't even need a list. It's like, go get absolutely everything because they need it. On the flip side, give me the team that most disappointed in the draft.
So hard to say disappointed without seeing these guys on the field, but I'm going with the Cincinnati Bengals. I look at them. They were forced to draft for need opposed to value. With everything going on with Trey Hendrickson, they went with Shamar Stewart in the first round. Now, Shamar Stewart, I think, can turn out to be a fantastic NFL player. Only 4.5 sacks in college. Is he going to be ready to play right away if Trey Henderson isn't lined up there opposite that defensive end spot? Then also with Jermaine Pratt, a guy that's probably walking out of the door who's requested a trade. They had to draft 2 linebackers and then a need at guard. They drafted 2 guards as well. So they were a team that were forced